Well, hey there, Jeremy. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Lindsay.
It's so good to see you again. It's been a
Yep,
while.
it's
So
been a while.
we are looking forward to a discussion today, getting to know one of our authors for this international education leadership book that my colleagues Wallace Ting, Katarina Song Chen, and I put together in an effort to highlight those unique experiences that we know you all have and give something back to that international education community. So we've already receiving those chapters and just knowing there's a lot of nuggets of wisdom in those. This is a perfect opportunity for us to just pull out a little bit more to share with our readers. So would you start us off and just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background in international education?
Sure. First of all, I just want to say thank you. Thanks for thinking of me and including me in this little experiment in this experience here. I'm honored that you thought of me, and it was fun to write a chapter to contribute to the book. About me, yeah, I've been an educator ever since, really since I was younger, straight out of college and graduate school. I started out as a teacher. I was, an elementary school teacher, middle school teacher, and eventually went into leadership. And yeah, I was really happy to end up in international education. Didn't even know what the heck it was a long time ago when I was a kid, but was fortunate to end up in the Cayman Islands as the director of Cayman International School, and very happy that I'm here at the American International School of Johannesburg as the director, and just grateful for our international school community that is so rich with experience and stories and people who I admire greatly. So yeah, it's been a fun ride so far.
Awesome. And I'll second that. It is a rich community. And case in point, we live across the entire planet from one another. And yet here we are connecting today to have a conversation about common experiences in education. So I just want to bring up a few questions for you again to bring out some of those themes in the book, in the chapter that you wrote, the compass of leadership. So for instance, your chapter, it's really based on a lot of experience. We asked you to narrow it down into a short piece, but thinking back, when you were thinking, okay, I want to be a head of school, I want to be a director potentially, what would you say would be some key points from that chapter that you might have wished you had known when you were starting out?
Yeah, great question. I think I wish I had known that that vision of a school is really about developing a movement. It's about getting people together toward a common purpose, about building common language, and how difficult that can really be. It's really a challenge. There's a very common vision statement that schools have, and we all have this idea of vision, but it's not uncommon for people to be cynical about that for good reason, because sometimes it just sits there and it's not really much to go on. But when you really have a synergy and people who come together and you're working together toward this common purpose that people believe in, and toward a common vision with common language, how powerful that can be. And so that really there's a real difference between just leading a school versus leading a movement. And so I wish I had known how those things come together and how to do that and how to overcome some of the challenges, because I certainly faced many of them in my earlier years for sure, and still do today. Absolutely.
Right. I love that piece of leading a school versus leading a movement. I think about, it's so easy to get lost in administrivia, and even just having been a principal, the difference between being a principal and a director. You think you know what it's all about, but what you describe in your chapter, I think, really illuminates some of those major, broader differences of crossing that divide into head of school leadership. So I found it very informative. Okay, here's another one. You've been in international education a long time, but you've also worked in the States a lot. What makes international education unique?
So, okay, this might sound cliche, but truthfully, I believe that international education really has that potential and that power to change the world. And because there's a why behind that, because you think about the kids we serve and you think about the communities that we're a part of, that we're influencing, and you're talking about the leaders of countries, the leaders of the future, really. You know, a lot of these kids, some of them are actually royalty, and some of them are, you know, leader or future leaders in their countries. And so, you know, having the opportunity in international education to bring kids from different places and diverse viewpoints and perspectives together, you know, that's really special to be able to bring them together, build in them those values that we want to see for the future, and then have them live them out, you know, in our future. You know, world peace and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, you know, nothing major. But I hear what you're saying, and I think my own experiences there, and to add to that, it does make the world a smaller place. And for kids, I mean, I just think back, I wish I had gone to international schools when I was younger. It's just the rich experiences that the students have, and teachers, of course, too, but it's irreplaceable. So we asked you to write one chapter, and then we said, okay, and can you keep it kind of short, because there's a lot of you, and it was hard, I know, but there probably were some other stories that you thought about writing. Was there one that you would like to share with our readers that you would say, you know, if Lindsay had said I had a little more space, I probably would have included this as well?
I think I probably would have told more of the story and expanded upon my experience in relationships with the Common Ground Collaborative and this guy named Kevin Bartlett. You know, as a head of school, I think I didn't understand learning as deeply as I did until after I had sort of those relationships and experiences. And that sounds kind of odd because learning is what we do, but you know, having a real understanding, a true understanding of a definition and how, you know, and tenets and principles of learning that we can turn into practices and really think deeply about learning in a different way. Yeah, my experiences with Kevin Bartlett and my friends back at Cayman International School, Ben Cowsbeak and Melissa Kay, Leanne Wright Gray, like just the fun we had coming together and really like getting deep into dialogue and spending hours and hours and just loving it and talking about how to move a school forward. With Kevin, kind of the Wizard of Oz, the you know, the sage advisor, the wise old man that really, you know, helped us along the way. So there's a long stories to tell about that, but I guess that's kind of a snapshot of the story I didn't really tell.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And I mean, I think what you just described even brings more kind of realism to what you capture in that chapter. And it's, you're rolling your sleeves up, like you said, you're in there with your colleagues and you're thinking about student learning and you're thinking about how to craft this school and this vision to move it forward. And it sounds enticing. It does. So I'll switch gears on that note then with another opportunity for a story. So I would venture to guess, like many others, you've gone home being the States, mind you, now where is home, that's questionable anymore, right? But you sit down with friends, family, and they just don't really understand exactly what it is that you do. Where do you live? What is it all like? What are some of those first stories, or a story, funny one, a sad one, a scary one, that you just try to capture with that? What's it like to live abroad?
Is this where you're trying to trap me here? Is this on video? You know, what can I say and not say here, Lindsay? I mean,
fair enough.
I'll go mid range. I can't go too crazy, but I won't be G-rated either. I'll kind of go between. So let's see. There was a music teacher at one of our school I worked at, and his wife's brother. His wife's brother was an attorney in this place in finance. Anyway, the guy had a lot of resources. He had a boat, and we got to use this boat whenever we wanted to. And the boat had a driver, and the driver of the boat might as well have been a pirate. I mean, the guy was, you know, he he was a really interesting guy that I, kind of connected with. I mean, he was salt of the earth. He taught me how to catch lobsters with my bare hands and, how to navigate some waterways around where we were. But he was a rough character. And he took us to a place one evening at night, myself and my wife and some friends, and we're on a dock that he had, put us on with a whole bunch of people, and the dock starts sinking, and we end up on a boat, on a different boat out in the middle of nowhere. And there's several men who, one of them had a firearm, another machete, and they were speaking Jamaican. And I think, they were quite scary characters. And I just know that, so my wife is from Jamaica, and she started speaking patois in the middle of this boat full of Jamaican men, and they just jumped back, and we're like, whoa, what's happening here? Because my wife is very fair skinned, red hair, and starts speaking Jamaican in the middle of the night in a boat with guns and machetes. Wow. And we were trying to find the nearest point of land to swim to in case it came to that. That's already too long. I know this. So you're gonna have to cut this out. But there's more to that story, but I'll leave it there.
That's great. And that, again, that's just one more reason I think we need to, again, have more opportunities for these stories to come out, because they go on, and they are not those kinds of things that happen in a traditional setting back at home. I'll say that. So that's a good one.
Definitely a mix of cultures that happened there.
Yeah. Great. Oh, I bet. My last question, I'm going to ask you to give up a secret. And you are live right now, so think about it. But we all travel a lot when we live abroad. What's that one spot? And you don't have to give the coordinates, but what's that one spot that you're like, I dream about going back there?
Oh, so I think one of the things that we're really fortunate, to have an international education is that we get to experience so many different places around the globe. And there's so many that are just stunningly beautiful, and we get to go back, and experience new locations and new events and all these things. But it's about who you're with that makes the magic, right, in the end. And so for me, there's a place called Villa Cimbrone in Ravello in the Amalfi Coast of Italy. And my wife and I were there on our honeymoon. Another cliche for you. But it is one of the most just ethereal, magical, stunning places. This place called the Terrace of Infinity, where you can't tell the difference between the sky and the sea. It kind of all melts together. And we watched the Chinese Symphony Orchestra there one night, and the lights of the boats in the water kind of melted into the stars in the sky, and it's just, you're so high up, and the orchestra was on a kind of cantilevered stage out over the water in the ocean. And it was just this, and you're so, the sky is the backdrop of the orchestra, and, drinking Italian wine always helps, let's be honest. But yeah, in the end, it's about the people we're with. And so magical destination that I'd love to go back to one day would be the Terrace of Infinity in Ravello.
Well, you surpassed all of my expectations with that story, and now I have to go look it up, because having traveled a fair amount myself, I have not heard of it, so that's even better. But it sounds absolutely magical, and I'll second that too. It is definitely about who you're with, and that's one of the other favorite things I thought about international education is looking around the room and realizing I was surrounded by people from 15, 18 countries sometimes in these magical locations, and the community, and then just the experience.
Yeah, that's definitely what's so special. I mean, there's between 80 and 100 different nationalities of kids that go to this American International School, Johannesburg. And then all the people that constantly come and go. It's like this kaleidoscope of cultures and people and experiences that we constantly are just really fortunate to be a part of. So it's definitely a special and unique profession and opportunity that we have.
So true. Well, thank you so much for spending a little time with me. I look forward to doing it again. And also to our readers out there, we hope you enjoy the chapter and getting to know Dr. Jeremy Moore a little bit more. So thanks for joining us today.
Thanks again, Lindsay. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching and learning with us at SchoolRubric with educators from across the globe. For more access to articles, magazines, podcasts, live episodes, our international school directory, courses, and more, visit us at schoolrubric.org. Thank you.